Hey guys, Knives Galore here and welcome to a new video. Today's not really going to be a build video, or indeed interesting, probably. It's just me doing some sanding, and I wanted to talk a little bit about a knife design and kind of style of grind that I absolutely love now. It's fantastic. And, well, I can talk about two actually, because there's another one I quite like as well that I'd like to mention also. I want to talk about the style of grind which is on this knife at the moment. This is a chisel grind, meaning that there is only one bevel on it. It allows for some really nice looking plunge lines. I know there's kind of a dirty bit there where it overheated and then I kind of forgot to clean it off, which is kind of what I'll do after heat treat. I'll just give it a secondary grind which will take the edge down to its final edge thickness, which will be thin. And it allows for some incredibly sharp knives, and I find it so much easier to do than a V-grind. If I get any other V-grind knife, we'll take this one. This one, if you're a beginning knife maker, it's simple enough to do, but it is more complicated than the chisel grind. If you want to do this one, you have to find an edge thickness, and you have to work both sides. You have to get the bevels roughly the same so it doesn't look awful. You do a chisel grind, do whatever you want with it. I put that there. Ooh, camera. With this, you can just basically plug it on the grinder and just off you go. And then as soon as it's down to the other side and you've got, I don't know, maybe half a mil, quarter of a mil on the other side. I take my tolerances down a lot thinner now when I do heat treat for some reason. It used to be kind of a mil, 3/4 of a mil. Now it's about half a mil, quarter of a mil. Just because I found a way of doing it that means it doesn't warp quite as much. So I can afford to take it down a little bit more, which is really nice for when you're doing the cleanup work after. So I really love this style of knife. This is a Kiridashi, by the way. This is basically a Japanese kitchen knife. The Japanese, they really love their chisel grinds. Most of the stuff they have is chisel ground. So at the moment I'm just sanding it off. I want to sand off the flats on one side and what's known as the ricasso, which is this point here, and any point that isn't the bevel. Imagine the handle comes up to where my finger is. Any point on the blade side of the knife that isn't part of the bevel is called the ricasso. Well, at least that's what I believe it to be. I might be wrong. I might just be an idiot talking to myself in the shed on my own. Wow, that suddenly made this video a lot scarier. Yeah, so at the moment I just want to sand it. This is just 100 grit. Just sanding it up. Got nothing else to do with my time. I'm going to work in a couple of hours, so you know, just thought I'd get sanding. And I wanted to share some thoughts about just knives in general, really. I've been doing a lot of work in practicing on my hollow grinding, because that's something I want to do at some point for kind of production style knives, because you can get a really thin edge. Same with chisel grinds. I mean, V grinds are good and all, but they're not as good in my opinion, because you can get a good knife on it, but it's not as good at, say, getting that really thin edge. You have to get a really long kind of shallow bevel all the way from kind of the top of your knife, really, and it ended up looking more like a kitchen knife than anything else. But say with this chisel grind right here, I can afford to start the bevel quite shallow. I mean, I don't know what this is actually. It's about, I don't know, maybe 25 mil. It's about the same as what I've got here on this one, except this is a rolled edge because this is just my shop knife. But yeah, you can get such a thin edge. And say if I have a look at this one, this is kind of my practice knife for what I kind of do loads of things to it and then see how it looks afterwards. I'm practicing my hollow grinding on it. It used to be a lot bigger with a lot of other grinds on it, but this is hollow ground at the moment, and look at that, that's practically nothing for a bevel. That's only about 10, 15 mil, something like that. But it's got the same capacity as this to be sharp, and this has nowhere near the capacity to be as sharp as a hollow grind could be, or a chisel grind could be. These two are probably the most superior slicing grinds you can get. If you want a knife that's built around the ability to cut, that's it. Just the ability for low pressure, nothing really else is going to happen to it. You're not going to smack it against a log or anything like that. These are the best because you can just slowly, you get such a thin edge. By the way, hollow grinds are done on a contact wheel. I do mine on a bench grinder. It's kind of working. It looks alright. It's not as symmetrical as I'd like it to be, but it's only a practice. I'm not even going to make this into a full knife probably. I might do. But same with a chisel grind. You can get, just bung it on the grinder, get it thin, and then sharpen it up from one side, then deburr it, and then you're done. It's such an easy thing to do. I've got loads of them. I've got loads of little Kirodashis I've been making for kind of customers and things. They're really nice grinds. The difference between this one and this one though is obviously size, and this being a full flat chisel grind, and this having I don't know what this bit's called here, but it's a ricasso that goes above the bevel on the knife. So if I flip it round, it goes above where the bevel, so you can actually see the sloping plunge line, see? Whereas this one just has a harsh plunge line that just sticks with the blade, so you end up with a much thinner spine, which makes it a little bit dodgy, but you know, it's pretty good. But on the opposite side of the coin, on a chisel grind, you can get a really thin edge and a thin spine as a result of that, which means that it's not very good for any kind of shock resistance at all. I'm much more inclined to, I just marked that on there because I wanted to redo this knife and make it smaller, so that's kind of the template I'll be going for soon. But I'm much more inclined to hit this one against the log than I am any kind of chisel grind or hollow grind. Hollow grinds are very popular when it comes to hunting and kind of skinning knives. Lots of people like them for just kind of regular EDC carries. You can get a very sharp and also defined bevel. Very, very nice bevels you can get on them. And yeah, that's pretty much how superior they are. I love these two grinds. They're great. But V grinds, they're very good at shock absorbance. So say if I was to take this kukri here, I'm never going to give this a chisel grind or a hollow grind. I would never do that, because if you imagine you go to smack something and you've got an edge that thin, you can probably fill in the blanks there. You know, it's not going to go well for anyone. So they're good for little slicers, stuff like that, little kind of keyring knives type stuff, where you can get a really thin edge without too much maintenance on it. And yeah, it's really, really nice to do, actually. The only other type of grind I've ever tried to do would be known as a convex grind. It's kind of the opposite to a hollow grind, which is this one here. Whereas I've got a wheel that bites into this and kind of leaves a circular effect, meaning that if I find a pen, you end up with that being your knife, so it kind of bows inwards. Whereas with a convex grind, you end up with this, because you do it on a slack belt, you end up with a kind of rounded tip. And just for reference, that's a V grind. So you've got your V grind there, you've got your convex grind, and you've got your hollow grind. Imagine there's another side to the hollow grind. I'm just really, really naff at drawing. And these grinds are good for lots of different things. Convex grinds are very good for choppers. I was debating doing a convex grind on the kukri, but then I remembered a kukri doubles up as a kind of a knife type thing, and you have the kind of the worst slicing ability on a convex grind, because it's like trying to attack something with a balloon. It's just rubbish. And they do require a lot of maintenance, convex grinds, which isn't great. Because if you imagine, you eventually get more and more dull on that rounded point, and eventually when you try and sharpen it, you end up with that, which is basically a V-grind on the secondary bevel portion, which kind of nullifies the point of it being a convex grind. So you'll have to take it back to a grinder, do some more stuff with it. It's honestly, in the most technical term I can say, a ball ache. There's no point around it or any kind of reasoning behind it. But those are all the different grinds I'm kind of inclined to use. You can split V-grind up into a lot of different things, in my opinion. You can do a lot of stuff like saber grinds, high saber grinds. I only actually know saber grinds. I don't really. You have a standard V bevel, I think, which is just what I've got here. It just comes up about halfway, follows it round, and you've got saber grind, which is kind of a low one, except with no plunge line, which I guess this would be actually. Do I have any? No, I don't have any down here, sadly. A standard V grind is where it has a plunge line, and a saber grind is where it comes all the way back with no plunge line at all. It kind of finishes kind of cleaver style. Or say if you had the handle coming all the way down, it'd kind of snug up nicely with the handle, which has some advantages to it. It doesn't look particularly nice in my opinion, and it's really, really hard to sharpen. But, you know, what you're going to do is, some people like it, some people don't. There's pros and cons to every grind, and no grind is perfect for anything. In my opinion, there's some people that say, oh, V grinds are the best, hollow grinds are the best, chisel grinds are the best. I like chisel grinds, but they're not perfect for everything. They're good for slicers, and that's about it, really. But you're not going to find the perfect grind for a knife, kind of at all. You'll have different grinds for different styles of knife, obviously. Same with steel. The steel you choose for that particular knife also depends on what the knife's going to be used for. All of this, I think, I'm pretty sure, unless any of this is a 10 series steel, I'm pretty sure it's not. I'm pretty sure all of this is just your standard 01 tool steel. I have no idea what it's made of actually, it's around here somewhere. I've got a little piece of paper that all written on. And this might be 1095 or some kind of other 10 series like 1075, 1080, 84 or something like that, but I think it's all 01. And 01 is a good steel just for general things. It's kind of good for slicers, holds quite a good edge, you know. It's not very stain resistant, but it is more stain resistant than a 10 series steel. And I like to consider it I don't want to say a super steel because that's another kind of technical knife thing. But it's a good starter steel because you can heat treat it easily and temper it easily, and it's very easy to understand. Whereas other things like, I don't know, any kind of ABL steel, 44C is actually quite an easy stainless, but it does require some more thought to be put into it. So as a general rule of thumb, if it's 10 series or 01 or any kind of other tool steel, but 01 is a tool steel, they're good. D2's pretty good, 01's pretty good, Nylox is pretty good, but I'm not sure how you heat treat it. I just know lots of people like it. I was talking to a guy the other day who likes Nylox still a lot. I should probably ask him how he does it actually. But it's all good stuff, this steel. But if you have any other kind of questions about steel, I'll be happy to answer them. I mean, I've got nothing else to do with my time. I should probably be, I don't know, going outside enjoying myself, but instead I'm sat here talking about knives. So I'm going to forget about that for now, but I hope you guys have a good day. I'm sanding, so I'm having a terrible day. But, you know, I hope you guys are having a good time anyway, and I'll see you all in the next video.